They can't sustain their own equilibrium. They can't function without outside attention. They're addicted, literally, physiologically addicted to other human beings. They can't sustain or emotionally regulate. They can't tell the truth. They can't, they can't, there's certain things they just can't do. So even though they know they're lying and they know they're not telling you the truth, they're unable to tell the truth and they're unable to do certain things because they're thinking through a disorder, okay? There always has to be, for the narcissist, a get out clause or a loophole or a reward for doing something. They can never and will never do anything for the right reasons. So the very fact that people are hanging on to his every word is disturbing to me. You are giving so much power and credence and supply and fuel to a narcissistic, murdering piece of shit. He murdered, right? He murdered 3 babies and his wife. He murdered his entire family. At any point he could have left, but like the coward he was, right? Because, and this is why, this is again, right? Narcissists, when I was talking before about how they're all about outside appearance and what things look like from the outside and things appearing perfect, okay? Like I said, we touched on her. You would see elements and moments in time with her when things just aren't perfect, okay? Yeah, she did keep an immaculate, tidy home. We don't necessarily know. Well, he was at work as well, but so he wasn't even there to mess it up. And if you've got a brand new house, why wouldn't your home be pristine like that and tidy and straight and organised? There's enough space for a start. So anyway, so back to it. So he needed everything to look perfect, okay? It wouldn't have looked perfect, would it, if he'd have got a divorce and left her and left those beautiful children, okay? Then how much was it going to cost? He's still going to have to, pay, right? I don't know what it is over there, over the pond. I'm on the other side of the pond, but he was going to have to pay, still going to have to pay for those children. There was a 3rd one on the way. The pressure was mounting. He's met this woman, and he will have believed in that love bombing stage, if she appeased his ego, right? The way, like how we've seen her behave in the interview room, I can only imagine her. I mean, everyone, we've all seen the pictures, the photos, this A, B, and C. Okay, he would have felt that I want this and I don't want that. I want that to go away and I want to be with this, right? He would have had that urgency and that want, that need, that desire to make those disappear, to be with her. And of course, every narcissist, they always think they're amazing. They always think they can get away with it. They always think they can pull it off. Why would he not think he can pull it off and go on to start a new life with NK? Why would he not think that? They're stupid at the same time. They're all stupid. They don't have, remember, they don't have the IQ level of a normal functioning adult. They have the IQ level of juvenile children. Okay, it's their cunning intelligence that's smart, the things that they can dream up, the ideas that they come up with, their thought processes with manipulation and cunning and the triangulation and the coercive control tactics that they use. They're very cunning. They're uber super cunning. So for me, the stupidity aspect of this crime, like a lot of people have said, well, he was stupid. How was he ever going to get away with it? He didn't allow himself enough time, right? He's a narc. They're all stupid. Unless they're a high-functioning H.G. Tudor, Sam Vaknin, they've got some self-awareness. They're a high-ranking, malignant narc, sociopath, right? They're all stupid. Why do you think there's so many of them behind bars? Hello? Because they've got that juvenile thinking. They've got arrested development, okay? Even, I can't remember if it was him Googling stuff about crimes or if it was her now, but he was the one, for me, that was clearly obsessed with how things looked, right? He was the one. You might have thought it was her because of the house, but if you really look at her videos, those lives, those Facebook lives, you see elements of imperfection with her all the time. I mean, you see her trying to apply makeup with 2 children terracing around that house, right? While she's trying to do the Facebook Live. You see her keep gesturing to them, calling them, checking on them. That one's in my makeup, that one's got this, whatever, right? Oh, try that. I don't want to say the baby's names, right? But, oh, try this, giving them a bar of this to try and that to try. You see, that, you know, they don't like the bar, they don't like it. There's so many elements of imperfection in those videos that are imperfectly perfect, right? Him, on the other hand, whenever he's on the bloody camera, has no one thought to observe how he is? He's the one, quietly, I'm just playing with the kids down here, look at me, while my wife takes over. Look how domineering she is. She always has to be in charge. And meanwhile, I'm just here playing with the girls, right? If anyone was the manipulator or the abusive one, right, it was him. And like I touched on about her abusive behaviour, those abusive traits, a lot of us women, I had them. When I was telling you about when I used to do those kinds of behaviours in my relationship, right, I would hide what I bought. I'd buy 2 of what I bought and say I only bought 1, right? I would lie. I would lie to this man, right? Never mind for a moment that he was an abuser. I believed I was in love with him, and I was choosing to lie to him about what I was buying. Oh, I've had it ages. Oh, you've just never seen it before. Oh, my friend gave it me, or I got it second hand, right? As women, tell me in the comments, you must be able to relate to doing that. Excuse me, to a partner. Fibbing, lies by omission, and it's sheer manipulation. And when I recognised I was doing it in my late 20s, I didn't like it, okay? I did not like it. I recognised that those same behaviours that I'd seen my mother doing, I was acting out myself subconsciously, right? And I eventually caught myself doing it, and I was like, whoa, hang on. Is this morally okay that I'm lying to somebody that I'm claiming to love more than anything else in the world, right? But then I'm lying to them, sneaking stuff in the house, leaving stuff in the boot of your car, pretending you haven't bought anything, all those kinds of things that women do. Yes, it's manipulative, and yes, manipulation is an aspect of abuse, therefore it's abusive. So for the people that are saying that they pick up these slights and tells from her that she was abusive, right, the majority of women are operating under that faulty belief system of toxic femininity, believing because they're women that it makes lying to a man, right, I'm talking about the female to male dynamic specifically, right? I'm not gay. I've not studied it between that kind in that kind of a dynamic to know, right? But I know what I see between women and men from my girlfriends. They lie to their partners about stuff they buy, stuff they're doing, right? All kinds of stuff, and it's abhorrent. It's shocking. So. And they're not all narcissists. That's the ironic thing. And when I was doing it, right, so I consider myself, like, I was heavily codependent, right? Heavily codependent. Now, codependence, there's just like with narcissism, there's a spectrum. Well, there's a spectrum of codependency. Some of us have just slight traits of codependency. Lots of us have, like, heavy to average traits of codependency, and then some of us are fully codependent. Now when you get to those fully codependent patterns and the personality traits, that far end of the spectrum, they are heavily manipulative. They are manipulative. And I have to admit, right, I had to admit it to myself, when I was operating under that codependent thinking style, right, I was manipulative, because I would tell people what I thought they wanted to hear. That's manipulation, because you're not necessarily being yourself. You're trying to trick people into buying this version of you, right? That isn't the true version of you. Is that manipulation or is it not? Is it lying? Is it not? Yes and yes, okay? So toxic, it's not healthy. So many of us operate on these codependent, manipulative styles of behaviour, and they are abusive, they are toxic, they are unhealthy, and there's no place for them in a relationship. So if people are going to judge her, this is my point, taking such a long way to get to it, but if people are going to judge her, SR, right, for those tells that they noticed in those Facebook lives, then I implore all those people to look at their own behaviour and how they conduct themselves in their own relationships, because I guarantee there'll be things that you have missed about yourself that you do that aren't okay, and you haven't caught on, your conscious hasn't caught on with your subconscious of what you're doing, what you're acting out, and who you picked those traits off, who you picked them up from without realising, because we have all got those unhealthy, toxic traits that we picked up from our parents, and we act out without realising. The same as children act out and mimic, right? Even us as fully functioning adults, we are mimicking certain parts of ourselves that we got from our caregivers. Now, if the caregiver's healthy and the traits that we've picked up are healthy, then that's fine, right? But not every parent is perfectly healthy. We've all got some, even if we work hard on ourselves, we've all still got some, or a few, unhealthy behaviours or traits, and often our children mirror them. They pick them up and they carry on acting them out as though they're like, it's like another aspect of ourselves passing on and passing down that poor behaviour style. And that's how the patterns of poor behaviour pass down through the generations, because we are not conscious of what we're doing. So even when the people say that SR was abusive, right, not necessarily was she consciously abusive, okay? Because I know myself, again, I'll go back to myself, right? I was giving the silent treatment to my ex-partner. I'd copied that trait off my birth giver, right? I didn't realise that to give the silent treatment to somebody, to completely stonewall them, to ignore them, ghost them, blank them, like they come in the room, you walk out into the kitchen, they come into the bedroom and you start slamming stuff around, or making a point that, you know, you're huffing and puffing and you're making it quite clear that you're in a bad mood. But when they say to you what's wrong, you just sigh at them, giving them a dirty look, or stomp off, right? All those types of behaviours are abusive. Are these women that are judging her seriously telling me they have not or don't do any of those types of behaviours? I guarantee not, okay? So whether she was doing whatever she was doing or she wasn't, end of the day, bottom line, she had no responsibility at all for her own murder. Absolutely zero, none, right? Meanwhile, there's a narcissist in prison manipulating you all, this entire community, to keep wanting, because, right, wherever we are listening to other human beings, wherever we are as ourselves listening to other human beings, so say me in my garden listening to a live stream, right? Whenever we're listening to other human beings speak, if we're just like open receivers to it, okay, that's how we get manipulated, and that's how we get like bamboozled, right? We don't pick up on any red flags and signs. Whenever you're listening or receiving other people and what they're omitting, right, you've got to be being critical and objective and be staying mindful about what you're listening to, right? Don't just let it all run into you and listen and it pass through and in your brain and it just sits there, right? You should be questioning, being objective, being critical about the things that you hear, okay? So for the people that keep hearing that, hang on one sec. So about the receiving, right? You need to make sure that while you're receiving information from other human beings, that you're discerning it consciously and that you're very present, you're mindful, okay? Because if you're, say how a lot of the people are in the community with Chris Watts, they're just open to receiving any and all information about this case and about him, because they're that consumed by it and obsessed with it to some degree that it's become an addiction. They've become, right, and this is going to sound insane, it's like they've become trauma bonded to the case. And if you think in a relationship dynamic with an abusive partner, okay, I know when I can go back and look at myself, how I was with him, right? You are that desperate, you're in that mind frame of wanting, of needing outside validation, and you constantly need these outside signals and signs that you're a good person, that you're doing the right thing, and that you're worthy, okay? And it's like, so whenever they speak, even when they're lying, a lot of us in abusive relationships, we won't critique the information. We'll just be that glad that this person's with us, right? We don't care about the details. But that way, when we're receiving information from other people like that, we leave ourselves wide open to manipulation. And it feels like a lot of these people around this CW case, they too have left themselves wide open for manipulation, because they're so hell-bent on receiving any information about this case, or wanting to be the first one to have the next big drop, or the next big breaking news, right? They've left themselves wide open. They've not had any boundaries up. They've not got any guard up, right? So they've left themselves wide open to manipulation, and manipulate them. Chris Watts has, all the way from his prison cell. He manages to keep this community of his, right, stirred up in a frenzy of constantly over-analysing and going back over every tiny little detail, trying to find a rabbit hole out of a bloody speck, okay? And I truly believe that he is manipulating every single one of them. They're all about commandeering supply, and how much supply and attention, and he'll be aware of it. There'll be someone somewhere telling him all this frenzy and all this attention he's getting in this community, and there isn't nothing inside of me that doesn't believe he is loving every second of all of this. But I think you people that are allowing him to manipulate you, right, this should just be, yeah, there are some loose ends of the case that probably don't make sense to some people, okay, I can agree with that, but why are you allowing, because what you're doing in effect is you're giving all this attention to somebody that slaughtered 2 babies, 3 babies and a wife, slaughtered them, absolutely slaughtered them, and nowhere, even after their deaths, was there any like how you heal with killers, where they may bury them, and burying a body is a sign of guilt, or a sign of remorse, okay, because they've wanted to put them somewhere safe and in the ground or something, right? Don't quote me. Or, you know, if they've put their arms in a gesture like that, perhaps, or they've covered the face, or they've covered the eyes, it's been a sign, you know, like they don't want contact with the face, because when they see the face deceased, it haunts them, and it injects feelings of remorse into them, possibly, right? So all these theories that behaviourists have with how deceased bodies are left after they've been killed, okay, I mean, she wasn't even buried properly, okay, and I can't say what he did to those children without crying. I cannot say what he did. It is sickening, okay? So you've allowed this sick individual, this run-of-the-mill covert narcissist, of which there's hundreds in prison that have killed their families, okay, hundreds, or their children, okay? I mean, on my community post, I started covering children that have been killed by family members that I believe are cases of narcissistic abuse, okay? The parents that are killing these children, they're no different to him. He's the same. They're the same breed. They're one and the same, okay? Family killers, kid killers, okay? There's nothing worse on this planet than a kid killer. Nothing worse than a kid killer. And look at all the attention you guys give to a kid killer. How there are so many cases and so many children going missing, right? Or their family members are killing them. I have this manifesto, okay, I have a dream, right? But I want us to get into schools and educate 5th year students over here, so before they go off into the world, they know the difference between a toxic relationship and just an unhealthy relationship, right? So they know the difference between a narcissist and an asshole, okay? Or they know the difference between somebody that's earmarking cluster B type behaviour to somebody that's probably got a mental health issue, okay? They can differentiate the difference, not to the point where they need a degree, but where they can protect themselves and keep themselves safe and avoid it and make smart decisions around the people that they choose to keep in their life. Because abusers and manipulators, because abusers and manipulators are adept at, you never see the signs until later. They're adept at manipulation, at making you feel bad. And this again is with the Chris Watts, when I was talking about the receiving the information. Whenever you're listening to information and you're not consciously being sure to listen critically and objectively, you set yourself up for failure, you set yourself up for manipulation. And he's been able to do that because they're all so desperate to hear the next big puzzle of this case, right? Believing that there is a big puzzle to this case. He's utilizing that weakness, that vulnerable spot, right? Because I can see that vulnerable spot in him, and that's how he's manipulating them. That's how he's keeping their attention so focused. I mean, how many girlfriends has he had? How many female sidekicks has he had? Okay, I mean, that in itself, that's again another narcissistic trait. This new and improved, I mean, there's a new babe. He was calling her babe or baby on that recording, this one from last night, right? Stop offering yourselves up so easily to be a narcissist fuel and supply, right? He killed his family. Even if there is, right, this, see, I could understand if there was some genuine belief that there's been some huge miscarriage of justice here and the wrong person is behind bars, but the right person is behind bars, okay? And if it's other people or other evidence that people believe are involved, then look at them. Stop focusing so much on him. Stop keeping his name in the titles and the thing. And I know, oh God, everyone loves it, right? But the best thing you could do for a killer, is put their name in titles, put them on books, make them famous. And that's exactly what you've all done. The very thing that our society used to avoid before the world of the internet, right? Because what would they do? They would try and, there was a thing where we would always try and remember the victims' names rather than the killers' names, right? Talk about the victims rather than the killers. Not so anymore. We've turned into this new fucking super nation of narcissism where it's more about our own narcissistic need to want to be the one that does this case the right way, that has the missing key piece of information. It's our own narcissism now driving a lot of this fuckery, in my opinion, going on around this whole entire Chris Watts case. It's out of our own born narcissism into it. And at the same time, simultaneously, we're allowing ourselves to be manipulated by nothing more than a killer. Okay, their relationship wasn't that long. I don't want to say how many years I think it was, just in case I get it wrong, but it wasn't that long. And that kind of a turnaround for a narcissistic type personality in years is average. Like, what has, nothing jumped out to me. Okay, and I know I'm not a specialist of any kind, but nothing in particular jumped out for me that would say this was a good guy just gone bad. All right, absolutely nothing. Okay, if she'd have been married to him for 40 years, and even if all the neighbours would have said, oh yeah, they found him to be a great guy, oh well, he was quiet, he didn't really speak much, right? That's how covert narcissists are. So when you hear neighbours talking about other killers or other serial killers in times gone by, and they say, well, I never knew anything was wrong, I saw him at church every Sunday, they were a good neighbour, they were always quiet, never heard any funny noises, nothing. No, well, hello, that's the mask. Their outside image is of the utmost importance. They carefully craft that image to be perfect, to appear perfect. They will always be together in whatever way they've decided to bring them, they want themselves to be brought across. Like my ex, for example, he wanted to be thought of as a hard worker that had a wife and kids at home, because him having a wife and kids at home legitimized him, okay, around the community, right, where we were living. So the fact that he had a wife and kids, for some men in some communities or areas, it affords them some kind of status. You know, they're not just a bad boy, they're not just a guy dating loads of girls, sleeping with loads of women. Okay, if you've got the wife and the kids and the house, you look like the anybody else, don't you? You're like anybody else, okay? But, and he'd pretend he was leaving for work every morning, and he wasn't. He was going, sitting in his friend's mobile phone shop, smoking weed and chatting to girls till he came home at 9 o'clock, 9:30, 10 o'clock sometimes at night, okay? Oh, I've been working all day, I've been working, right? No, he hadn't. He'd been sat bloody smoking weed, getting high off his face and chatting up loads of women, right? But no one where we lived knew that, because he had this perfect bloody image. Everyone thought he was a perfect family guy. Like, nothing Chris Watts did, right, anywhere, is anything out of the land of ordinary for family killers that I can see, or a narcissist, or the fact that most of your abusers, like if you look at a lot of these child cases, right, that have been killed by a parent, okay, most of them, they are like kind of like the stereotype where it's, I don't know, a single parent, or it's a parent that's had lots of relationships, or it's a parent that's got addiction in the history. It's quite often the stereotype that we often see portraying as killing their child, if we do, right? So I understand that way how Chris Watts is more, because he was a more family man. But these family abusers, they're everywhere. I'd say 3 out of every 6 is a narcissist, is living with somebody with narcissistic traits or some other sort of cluster B type traits. Easy, okay? The amount of men, start speaking to men, start asking men about the crazy women that they've been out with or dated, or they might not even see them half the time as being abusive relationships, because they just thought, you know, well, she was a bit crazy. No, she wasn't crazy, she was flipping abusive. What you're describing is horrendous abuse that was going on. Do you know what I mean? Like, people, the very fact that people are still so shocked at Chris Watts and what he did tells me more than ever that we need more awareness on narcissistic abuse, more awareness on DV, DA, right, and how it occurs and how it shows up. Because in my original community, the narcissistic abuse survivors community, there are thousands upon thousands upon thousands of women just like me, right, that were living with abusers trying to raise children. And simultaneously there are thousands and thousands of men living with women trying to raise children that were being abused. And we look like what Chris Watts and his family looked like. We looked like your normal, typical, working hard, getting by family, okay? The fact that people allow themselves to be manipulated by someone in prison, and how many people he is manipulating, because you've got streams full, 200-300 people, some are 1,000 full, right, of people desperate to hear the words from a killer, okay? I would suggest, I would implore you from the bottom of my heart to give your head a wobble and yourself a talking to. You are allowing a manipulator that was an abuser, that is abusive, that can't tell the truth for nothing, that is nothing more than your boring, basic, shitty, narcissistic individual, more attention than he deserves for what he's done, right? Narcissists can't cope without, like I was touching on before, they can't cope without outside validation, and he won't get much in there, I've no doubt. He won't get too much attention in there from other people. And they do, like I said, covert narcissists come across as shy, and they are, right? They come across, and they are at first, they're hard to, they find it hard to just strike up conversations. They can come across as socially awkward, right? So I've no doubt he probably does struggle behind bars, forging relationships. And not only that, he would have to forge the type of relationships that give him the fuel, right, that are about appeasing his ego, making him feel good about himself, that lift him up, that give him some emotional regulation. There's not going to be too much of that about in prison, okay? So where else is he going to get that supply and attention to fulfill that addiction, that people addiction that he has? getting it from the letters and the contact from the outside world, and all these women that are scrambling to try and be the one that understood Chris Watts, right? And again, it's their own narcissism pushing them to do that. It's their own narcissistic need. Do you know them women that think that they can love issues better? Like that you put a problem person in front of them, right? A bad boy in front of them, and they have some narcissistic idea, belief system that with the right kind of love from them and the right kind of understanding from them and the right kind of treatment from them, they can be the one that can change this bad boy into being a better version of themselves. Because of course love, right, and just simple prayer can fix personality disorders in other people, can't it? Right? That's the madness of that thinking style, and that's what you've got here with Chris Watts. So don't be deluding yourselves that half of these people rushing to contact him are in their right minds, right? They are rushing to contact someone that has killed and slaughtered his family. They're rushing to contact him to be the one to crack the case in some great shape, way or form. And for what? As though you give the man too much credit. You give him too much credit. He is not that he's not that intelligent. He's absolutely, he is a typical narc. He is as dim as a 5-watt bulb. That's it. He's as dim as a 5-watt bulb. There's nothing there. There isn't anything there in any of them, though. If you spend enough time around a lot of them, they're all the same. They're all the same. They're very stilted, their personalities. And if you, like, you'll notice some of these narcissistic type people that stream on YouTube, right? You'll notice that there's huge, and I'm not talking about your normal awkward silence that we all have as human beings where we're struggling to find something to say next or to keep a conversation going with ourselves on a live stream with people in chat. I don't mean that, right? But a true covert narcissist or a narcissistic personality, there's no personality, okay? They take bits of other people's personality and make it their own character and personality, okay? And as they meet different and new people, they take newer bits from that one and newer bits from that one, and then they get away with that one that they'd taken from that person and get rid of that one that they'd taken from that person, and they adopt these newer traits, okay? They take on these newer traits from this newer person. That's why often when a narcissist leaves you, they will reinvent themselves, or whereas they may have said to you, oh yeah, I love blondes, right? You're blonde, I love you, you're blonde, I have a thing for blondes, right? The next time when they've dumped you and moved on, they'll be stood there with a brunette, okay? Because they don't have a type of anything. They just emulate and take different things out of different people. That's all they do. There's nothing more, like, there's no, if you were to sit with, and not, like, that's what I was saying about the live stream, sorry, right? But you'll notice when there's these narcissistic types on live streams, they'll repeat the same verbiage a lot over a short period of time. So they'll have the same words repeatedly over. You'll never see like a broad range of topic discussion from them. What else, how can I explain it? Like, they're just so stilted. I don't know how else to define it. There's so many awkward silences with them. And it's funnier still when you get two narcissists together, because after the initial, you see them have conversation on these panels, they'll struggle for anything else to say, because there's no personality there. If there's nothing being thrown out there to mirror and emulate, right, and mask, they're like dead air. They're dead air. That's all a narcissist is, complete dead air. But so yeah, they are allowing themselves, you are allowing yourselves to be manipulated by a average IQ level, low emotional IQ level, child killing, wife killing, bar steward, okay? There's nothing more to him than that. And he has done the crime, he's behind bars, We know he did the crime. There's not been no huge, great, big miscarriage of justice here, okay? And you are working for the guy for free, trying to find ways in which he can use to somehow blame shift his way out of what he did. That's all you're doing. So while you're scrambling all these clues, thinking you've got breaking news, the only person you are helping and simultaneously torturing, which is her family, right? The only person you're helping by doing that is him. There's no part of the murder that's been, like, he did it. He did it. And if there was someone involved and he's choosing not to say, I don't even think, you know, like the way you guys go at it online, like I can't stand NK at all. I can't stand it. Her interviews to me were just alarming, right? But for different reasons. But I wouldn't want to help him with anything. Why are you all rushing to help him for free? He's a killer. He's a child killer. It's like you've got cognitive dissonance about what he actually did, because you're that emotionally charged up, right? And like I said, when you're receiving information, you're not being critical and objective with what you're listening to, right? Because people are so wrapped up in this case and having the next big slice of the pie to add to it. They're helping. It's insane. They're helping a killer. And attention is the best way to help someone like him. The letters he's getting, the people writing to him, people telling him whatever the hell they're telling him, they're speaking to him on the phone, there was the recording, right? You would do all that for a killer. What would you do for a good person in this world then? If all you people are this prepared to do all of this for this guy, who there isn't a miscarriage of justice, okay? There isn't a miscarriage of justice where he's concerned, he's where he needs to be. What would you do for a good person? Because you put all this time and energy into him, right? But so what would you do for a good person? Then you must give triple for a good person then, right? You must go really out of your way to help good people that are caught up in things that aren't their fault, or they found themselves in these positions, or, you know, victims of crimes and things like that. Because if you're going to help a killer to this degree, I would assume that you're going to help victims, true victims. You're going to really go the extra mile. But I don't see that, though. I don't see that. It's just this CW obsession. Absolute obsession. I'll never understand it. Well, I kind of do understand it. I think it is a touch of blame shifting culture. And the phoning culture, he's got people phoning to an abuser, right? And blame shifting for an abuser. They're blame shifting for him. They are looking, every time they explore one avenue for him of when he's saying he was hypnotized or he can't remember, every time they take validity in him saying he can't remember, right? Narcissists can't be honest even, excuse me, with themselves, right? Makes perfect sense to me why he doesn't want to remember. It's not that he can't remember, he doesn't want to remember, okay? He wants that out of his mind so he never has to live with the reality of what he's doing. You allow, like narcissists live through delusions, okay? Various different delusions to get through different days. And his major delusion is trying to abstain responsibility or accountability or whatever the hell it is, right? Where he's keeping people guessing. Oh, you know, but I can't tell you, but I would, but I can't, but I would, but I can't, but I would, right? And keeping people held on. There's why you need to start listening to people more critically. And what was I just saying about him keeping people holding on? He's nothing unusual. They can't tell the truth to themselves. So why would people think that Chris Watts would tell the truth? Why Would people think that he's going to tell? Like, lying isn't unusual for a narcissist. It's par for the course. It's normal. They can't tell the truth. They can't tell the truth. Point blank period. They can't tell the truth. Even if the truth will benefit the narcissist and help them and reward them, they still can't tell the truth. They still can't tell the truth. They still can't do it, okay? There still has to be some loophole or some clause where they circle back around and then say, oh no, well, it wasn't me actually. Well, yeah, I know I did say, okay, I did say it nearly was, could have been, but you know, now I'm saying it isn't, all right? That's what they do. They keep moving the goalposts and making people have to jump higher and higher and higher and higher and higher. And that's exactly what he's doing. He's gone from having a few people in his corner, right? And over a period of time, this crowd has grown and grown and grown. And now he's got all these people over in that corner. Not necessarily, it's not about sticking up for him or defending him. It's the very fact that you choose to give a killer, a cold, calculated, pathological killer, this much attention, leverage and validation, okay? He deserves, because in prison, he can't get the supply and attention he needs to sustain himself. Now he's getting it from the letters. Everybody, if you want to make a narcissist suffer, you take away the fuel and supply. You're not even allowing, for me, you're not even allowing this guy for it to hit him at 100 bolts what he's done, because the attention and the letters are cushioning the blow for the narcissist, right? They're cushioning the blow for the narcissist. He gets to cushion himself with all this attention, admiration, idealization, right? He gets to cushion his ego with all of that, rather than, because the best thing, narcissists can't do solitary confinement ever, right? They can't do solitary because there's no one there to emotionally regulate them. They need other people to be able to emotionally regulate, and he would have nobody there to emotionally regulate, and he would really start to suffer, right, and decline. And yeah, I would like that to happen to him. He's a killer. He deserves it. He deserves it. He deserves to feel the force of what it's like being shut away from the outside world. But the attention that he's getting off all these strangers cushions his mind psychologically from that happening. So even though he may be behind bars, right, he can still help himself with his detaching and delusions from the crap all these women and other people and channels and whoever else or whatever they're telling him, right, is going on the outside world. He isn't even feeling his pain and punishment yet. He's not even had a licking of it yet, thanks to the crazy people on the internet. Oh, you know, I think this has gone on too far. I need to get off here, okay? It's a beautiful day and I'm sat in my car complaining about bloody Chris Watts. Anyway, all right, if you found this interesting, feel free to share your thoughts down below. Don't be freaking out in the comment sections. Use your critical thinking, your objectivity. No need to blow a gasket. If you can't talk calmly without jumping into that emotional thinking that drives me insane, just save yourself the hassle of leaving a comment. We don't need all this emotional fraught animosity, people that can't stay. Like, I witnessed the family of SR on MRBs last night, and they were, I mean, the stuff he had to correct, the dad, right, about his own daughter and grandchildren. And if he can keep some decorum and some calmness and some bloody level-headedness about this case, what the fuck are all these wingnuts doing? What are all these people doing, losing their mind and having allowing themselves to develop huge emotional attachments to people that they've never met because they were the victim of a crime? Now, don't get me wrong, right? Do not get me wrong. Myself personally coming across that case the way I did when it happened, right? Yeah, it sucks you in, and you have empathy, compassion and a lot of care for the victims in that crime, right? But and yeah, I will have wept tears. Like I say, I can't even articulate what he did with the children without being triggered to tears, and I can't finish my words, right? That's how much it affects me emotionally. But that there's a difference to having that empathy and compassion for, and the sadness for that case, the horror of that case, to acting like a complete nut job on the internet anytime you discuss that case. Do you know what I mean? Or losing your mind, or having huge angry arguments and debates about it. It's insanity. Keep you calm. Stop allowing the internet, right? Because people, like, they click, and I'm going to get on into another tangent, they click onto the internet and they forget to strap in their objectivity, critical thinking and the boundaries. You can't be coming online with no critical thinking, objectivity and boundaries. You can't, because this is what you get. Emotional, loose cannons all over the place. Crazy making. This is what you get, okay? So you take one piece of advice from me today. Whenever you get online, strap in your objectivity, your critical thinking and your boundaries, okay? And if something isn't for you, leave it alone. Leave it alone. Stay away from it. I don't even know if I've done the right thing touching on this, okay? Might have to upload it in 2 parts. I apologise if it's long and people get bored, obviously, but you don't have to watch. You can click off at any time. But if you did stick to the end and got to the end of this, I appreciate you more than you know. I hope you have a wonderful rest of the day. Take care, and until next time, bye for now.